सर राहुल साहेब
राहुल सर सगळं होणार बरखा झोया साक्षी ते सगळं आले सगळं बाय बाय राहुल गुड गुड
चुपचाप मुंह बंद करके लेते रहे
इसको हटा दे बॉडीगार्ड को ए बॉडीगार्ड
दादा बोले तो पीछे
दादा
अंदर जाते हैं
एक सेकंड
मेरी फिल्म के बारे में सोचिए
एक सेकंड
फिल्म के
सर एक साथ राहुल सर
हाँ थोड़ा सा रहम कीजिए दो रुपए आई जो भी चाहिए ये मेरा इवेंट है आपको मिलेगा ये मेरा प्रॉमिस है आपका अपना फोटो भी है
It's a story that actually brought, to light a success that probably we wouldn't have known about, because here was this 13-year-old girl and she summited the Mount Everest और उस वक्त किसी को पता भी नहीं था कि ये हुआ था, okay? अब मेरे लिए ये बहुत बड़ी बात है, and forgive my switches from English to Hindi, I'm a radio DJ, I do that very naturally, but मेरे लिए बहुत बड़ी बात है कि एक लड़की ने ये किया, okay? इंडिया की लड़की ने ये किया, इंडिया की एक ट्राइबल लड़की ने ये किया. Now these three lines are very loaded in their own special ways, and I am probably not even half as qualified as my panel today, who will be able to talk to us a little bit more about what it is to actually do something like this, not just summit an Everest, which is physical in form, but also summit their own Everest. And I think that's what this conclave is going to be all about. So girls, I'm going to ask you this, and the two boys who are sitting there. Captain Aman, you're still there, right? Thank you for adding the much necessary good looks to this afternoon, as they would normally say to the women, yeah? So thank you, you're doing a great job. Having said that, the panel is going to be really interesting. You can actually get a chance to ask questions to our panelists. But before all of that, ladies and gentlemen, can I please introduce the Vice President of Indigo Airlines for iFly and Business Head CSR at Indigo, that's Sumi Sharma, to kindly come on stage. Hi, Sumi. Thank you so much for doing this with us. All yours.
Thanks, Rohini. Film promotions ज़्यादातर काफ़ी direct होते हैं. Go see the film, coming soon, everybody has to come, buy your tickets now. लेकिन जब आदित्य और मैं बात कर रहे थे, when we met and we talked about a potential partnership, Poorna, when she summited Everest and came down, in one of her first interviews, Poorna को पूछा गया कि तुम एवरेस्ट क्यों समिट की, तुमने क्यों किया ऐसा? पूर्णा ने जवाब ये नहीं दिया कि क्योंकि मैं एडवेंचरर बनना चाहती हूँ, क्योंकि मैं ये करना चाहती हूँ. उसने सिर्फ ये कहा क्योंकि मैं दिखाना चाहती थी कि लड़कियाँ कुछ भी कर सकती हैं. So when I was talking to Aditya, I said this is a great line, along with the Indigo Reach initiative that all of you do in terms of empowering women, and the story of this film. So then I began to think about how could we actually make this meaningful. So it's an afternoon where people can really listen. And then if they go and see the film is a separate thing, but they should first listen as to what it is that Indigo believes in and what it is that we believe in, because it comes from something that a 13-year-old girl said from the center of her heart. She wasn't calculating, she wasn't giving a soundbite. This is exactly why Poorna lives her life. When you hear her life story and you find out now what she's doing, you're going to be even more strengthened of the fact that this girl genuinely means what this line says. And then I was thinking, what's the best way to make people enjoy an afternoon? And I thought to myself, let's get women. Let's get women at the top of their professions, but let's not make it all sports. we could have had Sakshi, Deepa, Sindhu, and Poorna. But I said, no, let's look at women's journeys. जो सफ़र औरतों ने किया है, not SUFFER, but just suffer, in case someone thought that, in different professions. And let's hear those stories, क्योंकि एक-एक पेशे में अलग-अलग तजुर्बे, अलग-अलग experiences हो सकते हैं. So let's get all of that happening and let's listen to it. तो उसी मकसद से I called up my friends, and normally I know that they would, at least some of them would run a mile before coming onto a stage like this, but they are my friends, and I know their journeys, and I respect them unconditionally. So Rohini has introduced all of them, but I will be calling them on stage in the next second. Of course, there's Zoya, who's been my friend for 25 years, and who finally we managed to work together after so many years. Yours is a great story, from being an assistant director to Meera and all the international filmmakers, and then making. So we want to hear that. Barkha, who I've known for 20 years, and from the time when you were this feisty reporter at NDTV to now being a feisty reporter in the world. I was about to finish my line. Sakshi, who I don't know very well at all, who I've met the second time, third time we've met, but whose story is something that we need to hear, because although we've heard snippets of it before, we'll kind of get a nice, clear idea of where she came from and where she's going to. And finally, what I want to do is I want to show you the trailer of the film, because not many people know. Now you might be knowing 13-year-old climbed Mount Everest, but I think the trailer will give you some idea of Poorna and what she did, and it'll also introduce to you the wonderful actress who plays Poorna, who's in the room with us today. And after that, there's some photographs of the real Poorna in her summit to Everest, which nobody has seen before. So I thought we'll just show these two things, and then I can call the panel on stage and we can start chatting. But before that, I just want to quickly introduce my co-producer, Amit Patni. Amit, in the last, he took just, come here Amit, he took 4 months, and I took 4 months to raise the money, but he took 2 meetings. It doesn't get, Zoya, it doesn't get better than this. In our second meeting, he just said, done, I did a narration for his daughters, one of whom is in the room today, and his wife, and we just sat together and we chatted about the film, and everybody was excited and we were on. So I just wanted to say that you don't get films, you don't make films without money, and you don't make films without people who actually have a belief in a story of a 13-year-old girl with no star in it. So Amit, thank you. Thanks so much. Okay, guys, let's watch the trailer and let's have a chat. Aiye, come. I'm going to sit in the center. Anywhere you wish. Come. Come, Poorna. Sakshi, aja, Zo. Just about how it has been from in your lives. So, क्यों ना हम शुरू करते हैं शुरू से. Should we talk about homes, like how it was at home? I'll set the ball rolling. मेरी माँ एक दिन रसोई घर में पैर नहीं डाली. She never cooked. My father cooked at home. And जब मैं दूसरों के घर जाता था और मैं देखता था कि माएँ थी रसोई घर में और बाप जो था वो बाहर अखबार पढ़ रहा था, तो मैं कहता था very sad, very sad. Your mother's in the kitchen. They're like, what are you talking about? So that's the place where I grew up. Barkha, how was it for you when you grew up? And where did you grow up?
Well, I grew up in Delhi. Couple of years in New York, but mostly in Delhi. My mother was a journalist. My father worked in the airline industry, actually, with Air India. I think what I want to say here is that I recognize myself, Zoya, at least I can speak for both of us, to be women who come from privileged backgrounds, both in terms of the role models we had and the economic exposure and the privileges that we took for granted. But even within that, आप लोगों को लगता होगा, शायद पूर्णा को लगता होगा कि जो शहरों में लड़कियां रहती हैं, उनको कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं होती, अगर वो एवरेस्ट क्लाइंब करना चाहें उनको कोई नहीं रोकेगा. मैं आपको बताऊंगी कि 1999 में जब इंडिया और पाकिस्तान के बीच में कारगिल की जंग हुई, पत्रकार थी, मुझे I wanted to cover the war and I went to ask if I could go to the war front. तो मुझे बोला गया कि लड़कियां नहीं जा सकती, हम नहीं भेज सकते। और जब मैंने बोला क्यों, तो बोला नहीं हम we can't look after you, हम ये जंग है, ये वॉर है, हम आपकी देखभाल नहीं कर सकते। तो मैंने उनसे कहा कि आपको क्यों लगता है कि मुझे देखभाल की जरूरत है, आप जो मेरे मेल कॉलीग्स हैं आप उनको तो ये नहीं बोल रहे। तो उन्होंने कहा नहीं, और प्रैक्टिकल प्रॉब्लम्स है। मैंने कहा कैसे प्रैक्टिकल प्रॉब्लम? बोला सोने की जगह नहीं है, बाथरूम नहीं है। So you know these are the kind of things that are said to you, Rahul, even when you think that you have every opportunity, you're a strong feminist, nobody can stop you from anything. So लड़ाई झगड़ा करके I went, and of course I said I will use the bathroom not to stop you from coming a war. I'll go behind a tree or behind a rock under a tree just like the guys do. And there was often times when I was spending the night in a couple basement with another man, but that's how it was. But जो पहले की resistance थी, जो एक opposition थी, and what I found was that I seemed to have been living my mother's life. I was playing my mother's life out. My mother died when I was 13 years old, but those 13 years were enough to really root me very strongly. And when I went to cover the war, a lot of people called me India's first woman war correspondent. बहुत से लोगों ने समझा कि मैं पहली औरत हूँ जर्नलिज्म में जिसने जाके एक जंग को फ्रंटलाइन से कवर किया है, वॉर को। लेकिन 1965 में जब इंडिया और पाकिस्तान के बीच में जंग हुआ, तो मेरी जो माँ थी वो हिंदुस्तान टाइम्स के साथ रिपोर्टर थी। तो उन्होंने जाके अपने एडिटर को बोला, मैं तब पैदा नहीं हुई थी, उन्होंने जाके अपने एडिटर को बोला कि मैं आई वांट टू गो टू द वॉर फ्रंट। एडिटर ने कहा हम वॉर भेज नहीं सकते फ्रंट। So I just see conversations that happen with women remain eternal and same over decades. तो उन्होंने कहा कि उन्होंने कहा नहीं, कोई सवाल ही नहीं उठता, आप औरत है। मैं अपनी माँ की बात कर रही हूँ 65 की वॉर में। तो उन्होंने कहा ठीक है, अगर if you're not going to let me cover the biggest story, then you know what, give me छुट्टी। वो छुट्टी लेके अकेली गई to the war front.
No way.
She went alone. She told her office that she was going on holiday, and she went by herself with a notepad and pen to cover the war between India and Pakistan. So when I did the same in 1999, मुझे ये एहसास हुआ that so many women in my mother's generation had actually come and broken, if not totally shattered the glass ceiling, at least cracked it enough that I could come and show the next door. So हालांकि हम लोग privilege से आते हैं, हालांकि हमारे role models बहुत strong रहे हैं, yes, female role models, और हालांकि मुझे वो challenges नहीं हुई जो शायद साक्षी या पूर्णा को जो obstructions उनके लिए आई, शायद मेरे लिए नहीं आई, लेकिन ये सब privilege होते भी औरत के लिए कुछ conversations eternal हैं, कुछ oppositions eternal।
साक्षी, घर का माहौल कैसा था जब आप छोटी थी? भाई बहन कहाँ पे थे?
सबसे पहले तो मैं लकी कि पेरेंट्स ने कभी मुझ पर भाई में फर्क नहीं समझा।
आपके एक भाई?
हाँ, एक भाई।
तो आप दो हैं?
लेकिन आसपास के लोग और इन सब से बहुत मुझे मतलब ये फील हुआ कि मैं लड़की हूँ, ये फील कराया जाता था। मैं कहीं भी रिलेटिव्स के पास जाती तो भाई को पहले पूछते थे, उससे जाते ही प्यार मिलता था। मैं देखती थी खड़ी होके कि क्या मतलब लड़की होने का इतना बड़ा वो, पहले छोटी थी जब नहीं समझ में आती थी बात। अब मैं सोचती हूँ कि मैं जब गाँव में या कहीं जाती थी मेरे साथ ऐसा हुआ था। बचपन में इतनी समझ नहीं होती है। फिर मैंने रेसलिंग स्टार्ट की तो सेम सिचुएशन रेसलिंग में भी सब बोलते थे कि लड़कों का गेम, आप अपने भाई को भेजो। पेरेंट्स को बोलते थे, मुझे बुरी नज़र से देखते थे कि रेसलिंग कर रही है, मतलब इतनी बुरी नज़र से सोच भी उनकी अजीब थी। आसपास के मम्मी पापा को छोड़ के आसपास के रिलेटिव्स की मैं बात कर रही हूँ, और वही अब मेरे साथ मतलब बात करने के लिए तरसते हैं और फोटोज की साक्षी कब घर आएगी प्लीज हमें बताना, हमें फोटो लेना है।
हमारी साक्षी है
तो इतना सब चेंज हुआ है। तो हरियाणा में भी ये सब था, पेरेंट्स भी अपने लड़का लड़की मतलब अपने बेटा बेटी को नहीं गेम्स में डालते थे, लड़कियों को तो बिल्कुल भी नहीं। लेकिन अभी मेरे मेडल के बाद बहुत इम्प्रूवमेंट हुई है, और आगे आने वाले टाइम पे मेरी तो यही है कि बस यही चेंज मैं देखना चाहूँगी कि लास्ट तक लड़का लड़की में बिल्कुल फर्क खत्म हो जाए किसी भी छोटी सी चीज में।
तुम्हारे डैडी मम्मी के बारे में बताइए, क्या करते थे, माहौल कैसा था?
शुरू में मैं जब पैदा हुई तो मम्मी की जॉब लग गई थी, तो इतना केयर नहीं कर पाए, मुझे दादी जी के पास छोड़ दिया था। और जिनके मैं सबसे करीब हूँ मेरे दादी जी ही हैं। हाँ, और फिर पापा भी जॉब करते थे, नॉर्मल बैकग्राउंड फैमिली ओके थी। तो फिर स्कूल नॉर्मल जो एक लाइफ होती है, बट फिर मुझे ये था कि मुझे स्पोर्ट्स में बहुत इंटरेस्ट था शुरू से, तो मुझे कोई स्पोर्ट्स चूज करना था तो मैंने रेसलिंग चूज किया।
Like Barkha said, I think I'm one of the lucky ones. My mother actually was pulled out of school by her mother and was working. She was a child star in the Hindi film industry since she was 3 years old. So she's worked all her life, which was, she had her own issues with that.
She never went to school?
No, she studied till the 4th, but she's self-educated.
She's a great writer.
Yeah, she's self-educated. So she studied later. I mean, she met my dad on a film set. She was 17 or 18, and they got married and had me. So Farhan and me were born to teenagers. And yeah, so she, while we were growing up, wanted to study and wanted to work in film and wanted to write and direct. And she started working. She went to FTII. We lived with my father. She was in Poorna. We used to go there every weekend to the film school and hang out with her. There was no concept of...
How old were you when you left there?
Less than 10. Yeah. So there was no concept of women and men and what they can do. I don't remember a day where I felt different because I'm a girl from my brother. We are a year apart. We were treated the same. When I went to college in Xavier's, was my first brush with sexism. Was like my friend not being allowed out in the night, even though her brother was with us because she was a girl, and it shocked me. I couldn't understand it, and after that, obviously, you start seeing it more and more and more. Lucky for me, I've experienced skirmishes in my career. You meet somebody that says, "Oh, you're going to be an assistant director. I hope you don't start crying." Like, why would I start crying? Things like that.
I want to get to that because you had a long phase. I know you had a long phase as an assistant director, and that's a very different phase from being a director,
Yes.
for obvious reasons.
Yes.
And that phase, because I've seen you, we did a film together, one of the boys. That phase is something I want to talk about. But I just want to ask Poorna about her growing up. How was it at home, Poorna? Who is at home? You have a brother, I know, and there's Lakshmi and Devidas, your parents. But how was the atmosphere at home? Especially when you began to rock climb and all this stuff.
I'm lucky because I got great parents, really good parents. I'm thankful to God. So I have an elder brother who's doing civil engineering B.Tech that year in Hyderabad. So from childhood, I'm interested to play sports. And if we want to get matchbox, we have to walk 7 kilometers from my village to other village because there is no shop facilities, bus facilities, and road facilities also. So we have to walk 7 kilometers to buy matchbox also. So I came from poor background. My parents, they do agricultural work, and so from 1st to 5th standard, I studied in my village, Pakara. Luckily, I got admission in social welfare school, government school, in 6th standard. From 6th standard, now I completed 12th standard. I'm studying there only. So when I was in 9th standard, I got opportunity to climb Mount Everest by Secretary Dr. Praveen Kumar, who is the head of all social welfare schools. So I thank him also.
But tell me, when you were 1st to 5th, then you had to go out. Did your mother, did your father, who decided to send you out? Or did they both agree to send you out? Because it's difficult to send one child to like that a boarding school, no?
तो रॉक क्लाइंबिंग के बारे में सर्कुलर सेक्रेटरी सर ने सर्कुलर प्रवीण कुमार सर ने सर्कुलर भेजा था ऑल स्कूल. He sent it to all schools. Then PT madam came to me and she asked me, you want to go, you know Mount Everest? She asked me. Then I said, I don't know Mount Everest, but it's सुनने में तो different है. I want to go, madam. I'll do that. I don't know about Mount Everest, but I'm interested to do because it's different. Then PT madam called my parents to school to ask permission to go rock climbing training. Then dad came to school, mummy nahi आई थी. Then madam पूछा था पापा को. Then rock climbing पढ़ने के लिए जा रही है, तो आप कुछ होगा तो you want to take care about her. She said, then मैंने पूछा पापा को, मैं जाती हूँ, मैं करती हूँ, ऐसे पूछा था. He encouraged me. He always encouraged me from childhood. But when we go Mount Everest climbing के लिए गए थे, जब पेरेंट्स को पूछा था, मैं मम्मी को पूछा था, मैं जा रही हूँ एवरेस्ट चढ़ने के लिए जा रही हूँ. I said that's it. Then she cried. आप अकेले बैठेंगे क्यों जा रही हो? कुछ होगा तो क्या? She said. Then पापा को पूछा था. मुझे इंटरेस्ट है माउंट एवरेस्ट क्लाइंब करना. Because मेरे गांव में सुना था कि लड़कियों कुछ नहीं करती है. कुछ भी है तो लड़कों करते हैं. Boys they do anything. मैंने बहुत सुना मेरे गाँव में. Then after luckily I got Mount Everest opportunity. Then I decided to climb Mount Everest and I want to do the girls get play. So I decided that I convinced my mom also. Then my mom said, she said, पापा ने भी बोला, आप मेरी बेटी है तो पीछे आएगी. आप God का बेटी है तो रह जाएगी. This is like that. Then I started Everest climbing and they very encouraged me. They are encouraging me and motivated me, and I thank to my parents. My dad is here only.
Devidas, very good. Devidas. बहुत से सवाल है, Poorna, lots of questions about actual Everest climbing. Everybody wants to know, but we'll come to that later. Barkha, you want to say something?
No.
I mean,
that got overtaken by Poorna's story. I would talk about crying. I mean, I'm having a little sleep on the stage, and I think I finally reached that point where I'm not defensive about.
I want to ask
about actually crying. I heard comments about that. Made me remember that when I was at the war front, there were this group of soldiers who actually saved our lives, literally. Like there were shells and bombs raining down, and they helped us take shelter with them in an underground bunker. And then these same soldiers who had saved our lives got the marching orders to go up for the next assault. And it was quite clear that they may not come back alive. And in a short span of time, as happens in these kind of situations, 2-3 of us reporters who did help in developing the attachment to them. And I saw that my male colleagues were saying goodbye to them as they went up to climb those jagged mountain peaks. The boys would cry. And I was so defensive about being a female at the front line that I did not allow myself to cry. So when she was talking about this whole thing about, people to cry, you also go through that journey where you're actually quite comfortable crying, and it's okay, and it doesn't diminish your strength in any way. And I think her story really did bring tears to my eyes of just, realizing how easy our lives are by comparison and how little we've had to fight to get to where I am. And I would just like to say that being a father and a police officer are really also heroes of the story. So,
what is it?
I think I would say that every day is a kind of scaling of your own Everest, right? In the sense you scale one mountain, you look for one scale. In my case, it's not a little mountain, it's a metaphorical mountain. But I mean, when I look back at my life, I've done some pretty, there's no other word, some pretty crazy things. I mean, I have a 13-year-old who climbed Everest, but I went in illegally without knowing a word of Arabic, without knowing anybody, with one producer and a cameraman through Egypt into Libya when the Gaddafi regime was collapsing. Hitched a ride with a perfect stranger who had a knife and a gun, which we saw later when we got into the star, because there were fighters with guns everywhere, and this guy had
Where is this?
This is Libya, when Tahrir Square had happened, Egypt, mostly Mubarak's regime had fallen. I had covered that, and I had figured out the easiest way to get into Libya was to actually go in illegally. Egypt and Libya share a border. So on commented on enough is what happens to you after you're successful, right? You will not imagine the number of people who come to try and drag you down. You will not imagine the lynch mobs that come after you on social media platforms. Now it becomes so easy to just a keyboard warrior. What does it take to say a horrible thing about someone to someone, right? You will not imagine how work that you're really proud of is sought to be smeared with, all kinds of very sort of powerful matters. So I think we also have to ask ourselves, after you scale the Everest, what happens? What happens when you're there at the top? And that's when I think for women, it's really difficult from how it is for women. It's not as difficult it is difficult for a woman climbing up. But what our country really presents is successful women. It's actually tougher after the success, not getting there.
So, the first film. Any moments, self-doubt? How was it that first one?
Because I wanted to do it so badly, I developed another film, and I had a very big actor ask me to do a project for him. And it was a big star. The project was going to be a short hit, and everybody was like, a lot of people in my life were advising me to just take it. But it wasn't mine. It wasn't my film. It wasn't something. I know I could have done a good job, and I remember speaking to Meera Nayak, who had worked with. No. I remember speaking to Meera Nayak, who I worked with, and my brother. And they were the only two people. And Meera was like, what do you want to do? And I was like, I want to do it. And she was like, don't do it. You might have to sit for a bit, don't do it. And Farhan was like, don't do it if you don't want to do it. But saying no at that point, when you had no way of making your own story, and I think that helped me instead. So Luck by Chance happened very ironically because of these events. Yeah, because I said no to this, it dominoed into something in my first film got made. Nobody watched it. Nobody watched it.
Luck by Chance?
No, it made no money. Yeah. I got awards and a lot of, the press was amazing to the film, the critics were amazing, but nobody watched it. So, yeah, that was tough. Yeah.
Oh, so then tell me about the Friday the film releases. How did you feel on Sunday?
I did a check by Sunday. I was just happy my film released and everybody was praising me. And I think by Wednesday I said, how's it doing? And that's when I was told, it's not doing well at all. And I was like, how can that be? But like, it's being reviewed and people are loving it. I mean, the certain section of people, but nobody watched it. They didn't understand it. They didn't get it. So then you're back to the drawing board and you start from scratch.
Did it change your what you wanted to say? Did you now think, will people like it, will they not?
Yeah, you do think
Positively.
that. Yeah, but I'd already decided I wanted to do a road trip. But then you have to think about how you cast it. You have to think about, it's going to, it definitely, it gets more.
Those dynamics kick in.
They kick in.
But it was a huge success.
Zindagi, yeah.
Many people say it was a movie that they've enjoyed.
But it was also a dude movie.
Yeah.
It was fun. You know what I mean?
So,
yeah, I don't know. I really don't know.
What would have happened if those three were women? Interesting. Thelma, Louise and Louise.
I don't know if it would have gone in that kind of, it was a dude movie.
So then talk to me about the Wednesday after Zindagi.
It was very, very, very nice. I'm sorry, but the sound of that kaching is very good when you make a film because it didn't open that well. Because, people didn't know what it was and it wasn't bombastic in its publicity. So it opened like 8, 9, which for a Hrithik, Katrina starter wasn't, I've learned all this along the way. Wasn't really good, but then it just stayed and it just kept making money and kept making money and it was just amazing.
And it relaxed you for DDD?
Yeah.
Because then you knew that you had a hit behind you.
Yeah, I mean, you do feel a bit relaxed. I mean, I got very relaxed. I didn't work for a bit. But that was not good. I just traveled. But yeah, but it's the same. Every film is the same. You start from scratch and then it's just
Sakshi, मैंने भी सुना है लोग आपसे पूछ रहे हैं कि इसके बाद क्या. मेरा सवाल थोड़ा सा अलग है. तुम्हारी ख्वाहिश क्या थी जब तुमने रेसलिंग शुरू किया था क्या वो ख्वाहिश कंप्लीट हुई है? क्या वो ख्वाहिश की जगह पे एक और नया ख्वाहिश आया है? और अगर वो है तो वो क्या है और उसको पहुंचने में तुम क्या करोगे? तो फर्स्ट रेसलिंग पे जब तुमने फर्स्ट स्टार्ट किया पहली ख्वाहिश क्या थी?
जैसे मैंने बताया कि मेरा स्पोर्ट्स में बहुत इंटरेस्ट था, लेकिन मुझे ये नहीं पता था कि ओलंपिक्स क्या है, क्या कॉमनवेल्थ गेम्स, मतलब गेम्स के बारे में कुछ नहीं पता था कि मुझे कहाँ तक पहुँचना है। मैंने गेम शुरू किया और मैंने एक्सपीरियंस लिया, जो हमारे सीनियर्स बताते थे कि इंडिया में फर्स्ट आओगे तो आप प्लेन में बैठ के दूसरी कंट्री में खेलने जाओगे। तो मुझे ये था कि मुझे अब तो प्लेन में बैठना है, कुछ भी हो जाए, क्योंकि वो हवा में उड़ता था, उसे देखते रहना कि कब मुझे मौका मिलेगा। तो उसके लिए मैंने ट्रेनिंग शुरू कर दी कि अब तो मुझे हार्ड वर्क करना है, इंडिया में फर्स्ट आना और प्लेन में बैठना है। सिर्फ ये दिमाग में रहता था कि प्लेन में बैठना है। धीरे धीरे समझ हुई, जैसे जैसे मैं बाहर कॉम्पिटिशन्स खेलने गई और समझ हुई कि एक ओलंपिक्स ऐसा लेवल है जो हर एथलीट का सपना होता है वहाँ तक पहुँचना। तो रेसलिंग से बहुत ज़्यादा लगाव होता चला गया और फिर ये था कि अब तो मुझे कुछ भी हो जाए ओलंपिक्स में जाना है। मुझे दिन रात सिर्फ मतलब रेसलिंग ही दिखती थी। मैं कभी शादीज में नहीं गई, मैं पार्टीज में जाए, मुझे ये नहीं पता कि वीकेंड कैसे एंजॉय करते हैं। तो बहुत सारी चीज़ें सेक्रीफाइस भी करनी पड़ी। ये नहीं कि मेरा इंटरेस्ट होता था जाने में, मैं इंटरेस्टेड ही नहीं थी, मुझे सुबह शाम ट्रेनिंग और दिन में रेस्ट चाहिए होता था। बस फिर ओलंपिक्स हमेशा सपने में क्या हमेशा सोचते रहना कि मुझे, जैसे मैं फोटोज देखती थी, जैसे पहले हमारे जो रेसलर थे सुशील पहलवान, जो योगेश्वर, उन्होंने ऐसे ओलंपिक्स में झंडा लहराया, तो हमेशा ये इमेजिन करना कि मैं भी ओलंपिक पोडियम पे हूँ और मैं फ्लैग लेके घूम रही हूँ। तो मेरा सपना था वो, और वो पूरा हो गया रियो में। पहले भी था पर मैं थोड़ा जूनियर थी, मैं नहीं जीत पाई, मैं 12 के ओलंपिक्स में नहीं जा पाई। लेकिन जब से रियो के था, दिन रात मुझे सिर्फ रियो रियो दिखता था। मैंने अपने रूम में भी एक टैग लगाया हुआ रियो, कि मैं सो के उठती थी तो मुझे वही दिखता था, दिन में या रात सुबह मैं सो के उठती थी सिर्फ मुझे वही दिखता था। तो टारगेट तो ओलंपिक का था, वो पूरा हो गया, लेकिन वही बात है कि कभी मतलब ख्वाहिश मतलब वो नहीं है,
वही तो
सबर नहीं आता है।
अब एक और शिखर पहुंचना
एक और आता है, एक और शिखर पहुंचना।
मुझे पता है वो क्या है।
हाँ, वो
सबको पता है वो क्या है।
सबको पता है। और मैं एक बात तो शेयर करना चाहूंगी, जब रेसलिंग की समझ हुई तो सब बताते हैं कि जापानीज कंट्रीज बहुत स्ट्रॉन्ग है। मतलब तो मेरे वेट में जो मेरी चैंपियन थी, तो सब बताते हैं कि जापानीज बहुत स्ट्रॉन्ग है, और जो मेरे वेट की वो 4 बार की लगातार ओलंपिक चैंपियन है। तो मैं बाहर भविष्य में जाने लगी और मुझे ये था कि मुझे वो उनको देखने का कब मौका मिलेगा, कि मैं उन स्टार्स को कब देख पाऊंगी। तो सडनली मैं कंपटीशन में गई और वहाँ को ट्रेनिंग कर रही थी, और मैं अपनी ट्रेनिंग छोड़ के सिर्फ उन्हें देखी जा रही हूँ कि वो क्या कर रहे हैं। मैं पागल हूँ देखने के लिए कि मैं कब उससे मिल पाऊंगी, हाथ मिला पाऊंगी या फोटो। वही दिन है कि रियो में मैं उसके साथ पोडियम पे खड़ी हूँ। मतलब मैं भी सोचती था वो सच्ची में पूरा हो गया। 2011 में मैं ट्रेनिंग कर रही हूँ, उससे देख रही हूँ, और फिर 16 में वो फर्स्ट पे खड़ी और मैं थर्ड मेडल आया, तो हम सेम पोडियम शेयर कर रहे हैं। तो मतलब अभी भी विश्वास नहीं था कि मैं मतलब बैठ के सोचती हूँ। तो
पूर्णा, you know the question. Selected for Everest. I want people to hear about your final ascent. Base camp, you were at base camp for 2-3 weeks, no? 5 days. No, but then you fell in, you came back 5 days, and then you. So from the time that you decided Camp 3 to final ascent, from that time to the ascent, I want people to hear the story.
तो मैं एक बात बताना चाहती हूँ, लद्दाख ट्रेनिंग के लिए हम फर्स्ट टाइम फ्लाइट में गए थे। मैंने फर्स्ट टाइम फ्लाइट ट्रैवल लद्दाख को गए थे। आई थिंक दैट इंडिगो फ्लाइट ओनली। I don't think I will travel in flight जब तक मैंने ट्रेन में भी ट्रैवल नहीं किया था। दार्जिलिंग को ट्रेन में गए थे, बट फ्लाइट में इट्स वेरी हैप्पी व्हेन आई वाज फ्लाइंग ऑन फ्लाइट। एंड लैंड होना जा रही थी जब मैंने वॉमिटिंग कर लिया फर्स्ट टाइम, एंड इट्स वेरी हैप्पीएस्ट मोमेंट फॉर मी। तो एवरेस्ट जर्नी, इट वाज ट्रेनिंग इज डिफरेंट, एंड because it's life training, trekking. तो मैंने डेथ के बारे में and avalanche, I don't think about all that. एक ही है मेरे को. I want to fulfill the dream of me and who are waiting for my success, like Praveen Kumar sir, parents, teachers, and I want to prove that girls लड़कियों कुछ भी कर सकती हैं, वही दिखाना मुझे. Then 5 दिन एवरेस्ट बेस कैंप को पहुंच गए. And we stayed 5 days for acclimatization in the Everest base camp. So 5 days के बाद we started trekking to Earth. एवरेस्ट बेस कैंप से एडवांस बेस कैंप पर जा रहे थे, तो बहुत उल्टी हुआ था मुझे. I got vomitings till to reach advanced base camp from Everest base camp. तो then doctor gave medicines, तो ये कम नहीं हुआ क्योंकि वो वेदर को एडजस्ट नहीं हुआ. My body is not supported for weather and high altitude, and also I don't like that food also. I interested and I like Pakka South Indian food. So I got so much vomitings. Then Shekhar sir sent me back to again Everest base camp for stay 3 days for adjust to cold weather. Then we stayed 3 days in again Everest base camp. And after 3 days again we started up, and vomitings तो कम हो गई. मुझे एवरेस्ट ट्रेकिंग में एडवांस बेस कैंप से कैंप में जाना बहुत टफ लगा क्योंकि इट्स वेरी स्टीप माउंटेन, स्टीप क्लाइंबिंग. एडवांस बेस कैंप से कैंप में तो एडवांस बेस कैंप 6,400 meters and camp 1 is 7,100 meters. It took 8 hours to reach camp 1 from advanced base camp for me. तो कैंप 1 से आर्टिफिशियल ऑक्सीजन सिलेंडर यूज करते हैं. एक सिलेंडर 4 kgs रहता है. For each one 6 to 7 cylinders we have to use होता है. 6 to 7 cylinders. तो मेरा वेट से ज़्यादा वही वेट कैरी करता है. I carried 3 to 4 cylinders and extra clothing, equipment, and food also. Like I don't like that food, but dry fruit, chocolates, I carried them all. So nearly 15 to 20 kgs I carried with me. So वहाँ से camp 3 is called death zone. ज़्यादा लोग उधर ही मर जाते हैं, डेथ होता है क्योंकि ऑक्सीजन लेवल्स कम हो जाती है एंड ऑक्सीजन खत्म हो जाती है, ऑक्सीजन सिलेंडर्स खत्म हो जाती है, तो हेल्थ प्रॉब्लम आती है, दे विल डाई. तो मैंने एवरेस्ट March 24 I reached camp 3. वहाँ से अभी नाइट में डे टाइम को 3 o'clock वहाँ पहुँच गए. आफ्टर 3 o'clock कैंप 3 को पहुँच गया. वहाँ से अभी कंटिन्यू कर रहा था. वही नाइट में 9:30 को we have to start to summit the Mount Everest. It was last trekking, last night, last day. तो 9:30 को स्टार्ट हुआ था, नाइट 9:30 एंड trekking continuously. Then midnight, what time I don't know actually, what time I don't know. थोड़ा चक्कर आई थी. Then I said शेरपा सर मुझे बैठने के लिए मन कर रहा है. ऐसे नहीं बोला क्यों सर मुझे चक्कर आ रही है, ऐसे नहीं बोला क्योंकि जब मुझे वॉमिटिंग्स हुआ था ना, जब शेरपा ने बोला कि again if you got vomitings we will send you back to Hyderabad, they said like. Then मैंने उसको मन में रख के सर मुझे बैठने के लिए मन कर रहा है बोला. Then he said वहाँ बैठने के लिए जगह भी नहीं है क्योंकि एक साइड पे माउंटेन से वॉकिंग ट्रैकिंग करने के लिए ही जगह है, एक साइड पे वैली से. of the Everest. Summit को खत्म हो गई, then they have to come back. Coming back, जब मैंने dead body देखा, तो summit में I hoisted our Indian flag and we placed our great person Dr. B.R. Ambedkar's photo on Mount Everest. तो फर्स्ट में मैंने जाके फर्स्ट बैठ गई माउंट एवरेस्ट में एंड
कैसा दिखता है वहाँ से?
I see around Mount Everest all mountains all mountains देखा था मैंने Mount Everest पे and मुझे लगा कि I proved that girls do anything and I fulfilled the dream of my secretary and it's my personal dream also. I was very happy, no words to express.
Okay. I want to call some women on stage who are from Indigo. ये 4 औरतें हैं जो Indigo पे भी काम करते हैं, लेकिन इसलिए मैं आपको उसके बावजूद भी बहुत कुछ करते हैं. So, Yashaswini I met, she's Captain Yashaswini Pawar. I'll call you up in a second. Let me first tell people about you. There you are. You train other captains, am I right? She's obviously a captain. It says here that she's a true thrill seeker. She's in ocean diving, hot air ballooning, bungee jumping, applied to the Air Force to fly a fighter jet. Although she was one of 2 girls selected, she wasn't allowed to fly fighter planes then. And she is also a national level swimmer. That's amazing. Yashaswini, come on. Let's say hi. Can we have one of those wonderful felicitation trophies? Bhakti, thanks. And who is going to give this one to Yashaswini? Sakshi. Sakshi, come. I shall stay out of the picture and you can felicitate Yashaswini with. Yashaswini, anything in your mind about what you just heard in the last 45 minutes?
It's amazing to know all the backstories of all the women that we know in the front face. And Sakshi, also, I'd like to tell you one thing. I'm sure my grandfather, mom's dad, he was an Olympian wrestling, 1952 Finland. So he had come forth that time in the heavyweights. So of course, it's sports and everything is like your family. And knowing in all walks of life, when you come up to your stage, and somewhere the connection is always there. And women being so strong now, it's really important that you know the backstory of everyone because it's not easy for everyone. Everyone goes through a lot of stuff to be where they are. And that's appreciated today. Thank you so much.
The next lady we're going to meet is Priyanka Soni. Priyanka has, wow, okay. Priyanka has actually climbed till 19,600 feet. And you've won beauty pageants, dance, art competitions, obstacle races. But your new goal is Mount Everest, right? Priyanka, come up and let's get you felicitated.
First of all, congratulations, Rahul. It's a fantastic, fantastic subject. I'm sure it will do wonders on the box office, but the changes that it will make in the minds of people, that is going to be your success. That is your true success. Thank you.
Probably my favorite.
very happy. And being here today, it's a new experience. And I'm actually facing all these things very first time, like in this audience, and like everyone is watching me. So it's really amazing, and I'm very happy today. Thank you so much. Yeah.
And finally, we have, astonishing, this is a Formula 4 racer, and she's also working full-time at Indigo. Where are you, Sneha? Dr. Sneha Sharma. You're going to be going abroad to race soon, right? There you go. Let me just get the...
Yes, it's quite inspiring to hear all their stories as Poorna, Sakshi and everyone else. And I can relate a lot because I'm also into sport and on all-male grid. So I'm all inspired to do better. Thank you.
Now for the wonderful photographers, एक जो थोड़े से सो रहे थे अभी, आप लोगों के लिए अभी फोटो लेते हैं. Ready? चलो. Let's take the tables back, and so you can have a photo opportunity that you wanted to. I'll call the 4 women on stage. We'll take some pictures, and then you can go off stage, and then you can have.
राजू भाई राजू भाई पीछे बैठ गया पीछे सिट डाउन अरे बैठने बैठ के बोलिए
मैं भी एक पर्वतारोही हूँ और मैं ये जानना चाहती हूँ कि आपने इन कठिनाइयों को और बाधाओं को कैसे पार किया, कैसे इनमें काबू पाया और ऐसी क्या प्रेरणा थी जो आपको आगे बढ़ने में प्रेरित करी?
तो मुझे ज़्यादा ट्रबल्स नहीं आया था. आई एम लकी I have not get any problems while climbing Mount Everest. So the inspiration of me is Praveen Kumar sir. He is role model for me, and we have got 10 commandments in our school like prayer. So 10th commandment is I shall never give up, and first commandment is I am not inferior to anyone.
Wow. Amazing. Yashasvi?
I'm Barkha Dutt. So basically, we've all known you that someone who stands strong in the face of adversity. And I'm someone who seeks adventure just like you at your job. And just want to know, ma'am, what motivates you and keeps you going, especially when people challenge you at times in the face on a public platform. And you just said right now it's tough to get up there also, and it's more tough to be up there. So how do you deal with all those things? So I think one of the things that I've experienced, and I've seen a lot of other women who are independent, who are strong-minded, who are strong-willed, go through is that when you get to that point that you want to get to, there will be literally a kind of wolf snap, literally snapping at your ankles, if you can imagine it like that, somehow. Do something to demoralize you, demotivate you, be horrible to you, say horrible things about you. And of course, the new age technology has made it much easier. I've had death threats and rape threats on social media platforms. I get stalked on my WhatsApp groups. The groups are now formed in ways where even if you try to get out of the group, somebody adds you back on. With women, there's also a great deal of scrutiny on morality and sexuality, right? So, for example, my Wikipedia profile kept getting edited to marry me off men whom I don't even know. I'm not married, but the fact is that there's such obsessive interest in whether women are married, who they're with, what their sexuality is, what's their morality. This is not something that men in the public I go through. And I remember I was once interviewing Hillary Clinton and she said to me that, it's that you have to have a skin as thick as that of a rhinoceros. A successful woman has to have that much of a thick skin. And the way I respond to it is by saying that, okay, treat it as a challenge. Treat it as the fact that there are people out there who you make insecure. You matter that much that somebody's actually bothering to try to put you down. And it's a kind of mind game. It's almost like that psychological warfare, right? They want to make you feel underconfident about yourself. And I'm very stubborn that way. I think the more you challenge me, actually the more of a favor you're doing. The more you dare me, it's likely that I'm going to win that battle. If you actually leave me alone, I have the chances that I might get comfortable, I might get complacent. If you're nasty with me, I can be nasty right back. And one of the things I find a lot of young girls especially ask me, what should we do if we want to be this, that, or the other. And I always say that the toughest thing in life, and this is especially true for women, is to find the courage to be yourself. And why do I say courage? Because I think there are many people with women who try to
And finally, Riya. आपका एक प्रश्न है ना? I think it's for Poorna, am I right?
It's for you, sir.
For me?
Okay, so being both of us being a rugby player, so I know how it is not to let your spirit break when your body breaks. But is there any special message you've taken away from your role in Poorna that will motivate the women in our country?
From my acting?
Yeah, from this movie.
From this movie?
Yeah.
Of course, my God, so many things. I think जब एक 13 साल की लड़की माउंट एवरेस्ट के शिखर के पास है और बॉडी कह रहा है कि सो 2 मिनट बैठते 2 मिनट यार, जस्ट लेट्स गो टू स्लीप। जैसे हम एग्जाम टाइम पे अलार्म बजता है और 5 मिनट। फर्क ये है कि वहां पे एग्जाम आप मिस करोगे, आप फेल करोगे, वहां पे आप मर जाओ। सिंपल। तो इसमें एक सो जाओ सो जाओ सो जाओ, and then you see 6 dead bodies, one by one by one. This girl saw 6 dead bodies. They don't take it down from Everest, they just turn it face. And then to say, I have to go there to the summit and come back before I die. I have to come back before I die. This idea for me, that to reach somewhere and then to come back from that place before something in you changes forever, is I keep very, very close to my heart. And I have learned that at your best moment in life, at your most triumphant, it's very strange, we are always alone. In our head, we are always alone. We sit for 30 seconds alone. We don't need anybody around us. I don't know whether you guys have felt that. But at that one moment, it's a very private, very, very concentrated moment where everything is silent and everything is peaceful. And all you want is to be alone in your own place. Well, thank you everybody. Thanks for this wonderful, wonderful, wonderful opportunity for us to get to chat with these incredible women. You know Poorna releases on March 31st. You know all that stuff. So, and you've heard enough. Thank you for being here. And now, mujhe pata hai, start. All these photographers are waiting at the starting line. We'll do some pictures and we'll do some sound bites, whatever needs to be done. The Spice guys are here, so we'll figure it out. Thanks. Thank you.
ऑन वाइड भी है। ये तो पिक्चर दिया था, कितना पिक्चर? 16। अब सिनेमा दे रहे हैं। पक गए बेटा।